We are Roche, the world leader in vitro diagnostics and tissue-based cancer diagnostics.
The Indiana tie to the global leader in testing blood work and tissue samples. Roche Diagnostics may be based in Switzerland, but Indianapolis playing a key role in its operations. Get to know the man running the show at Roche's North American headquarters in Indy. His journey from growing up in a small Ohio city, why Abe Lincoln inspires him as a leader, and what's next for Roche. President and CEO Brad Moore, my guest this week on the Business and Beyond podcast.
There's something to be said about the manufacturing industry in Galion, Ohio.
That small community in northern Ohio producing a big-time leader in healthcare. Brad Moore, the son of a successful Galion, Ohio banker, now at the helm of Roche Diagnostics North America, based right here in Indianapolis. And I am pleased to be joined on the podcast this week by Brad Moore. Brad is the president and CEO at Roche Diagnostics North America, headquarters here in Indianapolis. Brad, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Gary. How are you doing today?
Doing great. Lots we can talk about. So much growth in the Roche footprint, the impact that Roche certainly is having, and much of that impact coming right here in Indiana. You've been with Roche since 2016. Just took over as CEO January 1, so about 9 months into the job. So how's it going? Give me the lowdown on how things are going at Roche.
Yeah, so far so good. I would say things are going great. It's been really a dramatic, eventful last few years. So I moved over from our diabetes care division to the diagnostics group right in 2020, in the midst of the pandemic. That was really a formative time in a lot of ways, and has transformed our industry. And, we were on a tremendous growth trajectory prior to that event, but certainly it has raised the public awareness of the role that diagnostics plays in healthcare, and really helped to energize, I would say, the entire industry.
Brad, talk about, because even though there's such a substantial presence by Roche Diagnostics here in Indiana, obviously Indianapolis, 4,000 plus employees, I don't think a lot of people fully understand the things going on that sprawling campus. Give us a thumbnail description of Roche Diagnostics, again, your North American headquarters here in Indianapolis. And again, I say sprawling. I've watched that literally grow over the years into quite a complex. Talk about what goes on there.
Yeah, sure. I mean, just talking about our footprint, first and foremost, we're 170 plus acres campus, and we've invested about $500 million on this campus over the past decade as part of our ongoing growth. So, as you said, this is the North America headquarters for our diagnostics group, and diagnostics, if you think about it, is really when you have blood work done, you go to the hospital, or tissue that needs to be analyzed, it goes to a laboratory. We provide platforms, across a range of diagnostics areas, really kind of every part of medicine, to healthcare providers to help provide important answers to clinicians and to patients to help their care. As I said, we've been here for decades. It continues to grow. We saw really accelerated growth throughout the pandemic as we responded to this public health crisis. That was really all hands on deck in finding ways to provide important tools. And so throughout that, this is, I would say, you mentioned 4,000 employees. We also represent over $3 billion in revenue that we sell each year, and that also feeds back into the local economy. We spend over $100 million each year with other Indiana vendors. So we feel like we're an important component of the local economy.
Brad, you mentioned the pandemic and all hands on deck, and I remember certainly Roche in the headlines for producing the COVID test kits, right? Yeah. And talk about that. You weren't CEO at that time, but you were with the company because a lot of that work, right, was done here in Indianapolis. Talk about what that was like, and I'm sure it was a mission that was beyond business. You know, it was probably personal for a lot of people as well.
Yeah, I mean, we were really proud to have been the first company in the U.S. to get an emergency use authorization for a COVID diagnostic test. So this was our PCR technology, which, a few years ago, no one knew what PCR was, and now it's a household term, but basically a highly accurate test to be able to diagnose COVID. And so from the point of getting that authorization, then we embarked on some really deep public-private partnerships, working with the U.S. government, working with healthcare systems and public health systems around the U.S. to then make sure that we could deploy all those tests and provide the access to patients where it was needed most, and to equitably do that. So it was an intense time. And from that point forward, then in the coming weeks and months ahead, it was really working to expand our capacity and create greater numbers of tests to help patients and the clinicians.
Talk about though a little bit more, because I can't imagine the logistics involved. And then obviously the pandemic was ongoing. There, I'm sure, were health concerns and all those kinds of things you had to deal. Like, what was that? What was like that trying to manage that?
One thing I would say is that in a crisis like that, it does create singular focus. We worked over the months to expand our manufacturing capacity by eightfold. The tests themselves were being manufactured at a plant in New Jersey, and then they would come here to Indianapolis to be distributed around the country. And so, we were working on all aspects of the supply chain, and in some cases, literally chartering planes to get tests where they were needed for the next day.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it seems like COVID is kind of rearing its ugly head again. Are there preparations in the works from a testing standpoint, and Roche's potential role in what may or may not happen going forward?
Absolutely. And I would say, we're in a much different place in terms of our ability to respond as an industry, as a country. I think we're prepared, and the solutions continue to evolve. So I think as we enter into this endemic phase now, a lot of the focus is around we provide a number of combination tests that you can take one test and know if you have flu A, flu B, COVID, or another respiratory illness called RSV. And so quickly being able to diagnose exactly what you might have, and then clinicians being able to guide the right treatment. So, I think the modalities go from in-home to more acute settings. And I think we're in a much better position now.
Yeah. In terms of the things that Roche Diagnostics does, I know focused on a number of problematic areas, Alzheimer's as an example. Talk about that, because I know you have some technology and products, and I think, I'm just going on memory here, there's maybe a partnership with Lilly that's involved there. Talk about your work in the Alzheimer's area.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's such an exciting space right now because, frustratingly, up to this point, people with dementia and Alzheimer's in particular, there have not been necessarily a therapeutic option for treatment, either to slow down or halt the progression. And so we're now standing at kind of the beginning of a new age where there are companies that are coming to market with therapies that are showing efficacy in being able to slow down that disease progression. And so there's a second generation therapy from Biogen that's coming out. As you mentioned, Eli Lilly has an exciting medicine, which is with the FDA right now for approval. And with that now starts to amplify the need to have a timely and effective diagnosis to understand that indeed someone has Alzheimer's and that they can be a candidate perhaps for that therapy. And so we have been working very hard in this space. We have recently gotten approval for 2 tests that provide a definitive diagnosis for Alzheimer's that's taken from spinal fluid. But we also see the need for, a more widespread technology that could be taken from a blood sample. And so that's something that we're actively developing. And to your point, we have partnered with Eli Lilly to develop that test and bring that to market. Hopefully in the very near future, that can help to aid in that speedy and effective diagnostic path for a patient.
In your view, and not to overstate it, but can Indiana broadly, but Indianapolis, in this age with so many advances being made in healthcare and biomedicine, biotechnology, all those areas, with Roche Diagnostics, with Eli Lilly and Company, with Purdue and IU and some of the academic assets, is it too much of a stretch to say Indiana can become somewhat of a center, a hub, if you will, for this kind of research and development activity?
Yeah, I think we're definitely heading in that direction. And personally, I feel like the life sciences footprint and environment that we have here is underrated. There's obviously a lot of activity on the East and the West Coast in that regard, but we have a lot going for us, and we have really a collective environment, I think, which is on a growth trajectory, and it's something we can continue to build on.
Yeah, Brett, as you look, all companies across all sectors are dealing with the talent issue. Workforce certainly is at the top or near the top of most, urgent agenda items, if you will. Talk about your ability, the Roche ability to attract and keep the people you need here in Indianapolis.
I think we're in a really strong position. As you mentioned, we have great, academic feeders that can help to supply a workforce. We have a lot of development opportunities, internships, early accelerated development programs, both on the business side and also on the technical side. We support a large number of our workforce is actually technical engineers that work here locally and around the country in supporting healthcare systems, keeping their laboratory equipment up and running and working. So both on the business and on the technical side, this is something we invest very much in. We have a tremendous retention rate, well over 95%. And so, I'd say I'm very, very proud of the talented, committed workforce that we have here at Roche, and I think it's a competitive advantage.
Partnerships. We mentioned the partnership with Lilly. I believe you have a partnership with IU Health, a fairly substantial partnership there as well. Talk about that and this whole idea of collaborations. As I talk to CEOs and senior executives at any number of firms, they talk about the power many times of collaboration and working with other organizations. Talk about that collaboration as part of the vision there at Roche.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, obviously, from where we're situated, we work with a number of healthcare systems around the country, but it's also really important to us that we're investing and focusing on the community in which we live and work, and so here in Central Indiana, and so with IU, we've had a couple of different dimensions of great collaboration, and one is working together with them along with some other entities to form a healthcare equity and access coalition to help to bring better access of care to patients throughout Central Indiana and to elevate their healthcare status. So that's been a really rewarding activity. And then also, given the proximity, it's a great opportunity. We have opportunities both in diagnostics and then also Roche's pharmaceutical arm, working with IU in a lot of clinical development programs in areas like Alzheimer's, like cardiovascular disease, and so forth, and oncology.
Yeah, what key, Brett, in your view, what will be key to Roche Diagnostics' continued growth here, in particular here in Indianapolis and Indiana?
I would say there's a couple of things. One is that we invest tremendously in R&D as a organization. So Roche, as a corporate entity, is a top 10 investor in R&D across all industries. We're the number one investor in healthcare, and by far the number one investor in R&D for diagnostics. So, we're funneling funds into innovations all the time and being able to bring new platforms to advance the standard of care. So for us, that is absolutely a trajectory of growth. The other dimension I would mention specifically here in the U.S. is, we work very closely in Capitol Hill with Congress to continue to drive the right kind of policies that support the diagnostics industry and the healthcare providers that provide diagnostic solutions to make sure that they have adequate funding to be able to provide these life-saving technologies. Over 70% of healthcare decisions are made with diagnostic tests, and yet it's only 4% of the spending in healthcare, in this country. So we need to make sure that the right reimbursement, the right funding is in place, so that healthcare providers can continue to provide those solutions.
Much more with Brad Moore, the president and CEO of Roche Diagnostics North America. We'll find out a little bit more about Brad's background and his path to Indianapolis. That's when the Business and Beyond podcast returns. Stay with us.
At PNC Bank, we're committed to making a difference in the lives of our customers and communities by helping them move forward financially. As a Main Street bank, we try to do right by our customers with every encounter. Our local teams offer personalized financial advice to help guide you in making the best decision. We're proud to be part of your community. PNC Bank. See how we can make a difference for you at pnc.com. Copyright 2022, the PNC Financial Services Group, Inc., all rights reserved.
Welcome back to the Business and Beyond podcast presented by PNC. My guest this week is Brad Moore, the president and CEO of Roche Diagnostics North America, headquartered here in Indianapolis. And Brad has been with Roche since 2016, but took over as CEO at the first of this year. Brad, talk a little bit about your background, because prior to Roche, you spent some time with senior executive positions at Johnson & Johnson, DePuy Spine, and others. Talk about your path to Indianapolis.
Yeah, sure. So originally from Ohio, and coming out of university, I entered into an internship with a biotech company that turned into a 30-year career. So over that time, spent 5 years with a startup that was developing an intraoperative detection of cancer technology. Then moved to, as you said, J&J, where the majority of that time was focused in the orthopedic and spinal implant arena. Actually spent a little bit of time in Warsaw, Indiana during that time. And then after 18 years, moved into leading the North America region for Roche Diabetes Care, and then ultimately over to diagnostics.
And you're an inventor too, right? You've got three U.S. patents. Tell me about that. All related. It looks like spinal related devices.
Yeah. I did have an opportunity to help to contribute to some of the ongoing design of some spinal solutions, and what I found in orthopedics and spine is it's a very tangible, personal kind of development process, and developing the tools that could help to affect deformities or degenerative conditions, and worked very closely with spine surgeons. Spent a lot of time in cadaver labs, working with prototypes and coming up with some cool solutions.
We talked about growing up in Ohio. What was What town? What town did you grow up in?
I grew up in Galion, Ohio,
Which is where?
Small town in northern Ohio.
Okay, good. So, what was growing up in Galion, Ohio, like?
I would say it was a great experience. It was a sort of typical small town kind of existence, but wouldn't change it for the world.
I know you're a big sports guy, right? Played a lot of sports.
I did, like most of my friends, played football, basketball, tennis. Had an opportunity to play tennis at Ohio Wesleyan, so had some great experiences there.
Why Ohio Wesleyan? I know you grew up in Ohio. You're a Buckeye, right, by birth. Ohio State, maybe, but you went to a smaller school in Ohio Wesleyan. What attracted you to that university?
My older sister actually started there, and so that was one aspect. But I actually started out as a history major. That attracted me to that area. Ended up switching over midstream into international business, but really enjoyed my time at Ohio Wesleyan. And like I say, that was my entree into this industry and making a connection with a great internship.
I know you list your role models as your dad, who's the president of a small bank in Ohio. So you come by the business piece of it naturally, I guess, huh?
Yeah, my dad is an interesting story. So he really was a self-made individual. His father quit school in the Depression at age 12 to build houses for his career. And my dad worked his way through business school and ultimately became president and CEO of First Federal Bank of Ohio, became chairman of the Ohio Bankers League, and really was just a terrific story and inspired me in a lot of ways. Yeah,
I'll bet. Abraham Lincoln, too. I know a lot of people, or a fair number of people will put Abraham Lincoln down. He's one of you look at him as one of your role models.
Yeah, kind of as you say, a common choice. But as someone who spent a lot of time with history, I have to say, especially if you ever read Doris Kearns Goodwin's book "Team of Rivals," to me, it's an incredible story of leadership, and someone with a humility, empathy, but also like the intellectual confidence to surround himself with people who had differing opinions and, blatantly disagreed with him time and again in order to create better answers and a better team. And, I don't think back then they were talking about inclusion, let's say, but, he was, I think, just the epitome of an inclusive leader.
Yeah. And the character traits you talk about there from Abraham Lincoln, you can certainly translate or transition those into the role as CEO or senior executive of really, any organization.
For sure. Yeah. I'm not someone who ascribes to history repeating itself. The circumstances are always different, but I think that the learnings about human behavior and about leadership, it doesn't matter if you're talking about Marcus Aurelius 2,000 years ago or Abraham Lincoln or someone today. Those lessons endure.
Yeah. Looking to the future, innovation, as you mentioned, it will drive the future for Roche Diagnostics and really all companies. But as you look to the future at Roche, the pipeline, what you see now, how would you describe where things stand now in that future pipeline at Roche Diagnostics?
Yes, as exciting as it's ever been. So, we touched on some of the developments in Alzheimer's, which I think are going to make a huge difference for patients. We have, developments in cardiology. Within heart failure, for instance, we have a cardiac marker that's been around for a while that diagnoses heart failure. But we've recently released a study that showed that when used in a patient protocol post-discharge from an acute hospital stay, can actually help clinicians quickly find the right dosage of therapy. It has a demonstrable impact on overall survival rates, as well as reducing return visits to the hospital. So, just an incredible advance using a marker that we've had for a few years. There's a lot of exciting things going on in oncology, always, certainly on the medicine side, but then on the diagnostic side, our ability to utilize genomic testing, for instance, in being able to find and isolate, specific issues that can then drive accurate therapy selections is really helping to change oncology as a whole. So, those are all fields that we see as super exciting. Really continue to invest heavily in those areas.
Yeah, before we go, because I want to hit back on the talent thing, because it's such an important issue. As you look at that future pipeline, your future needs, what types of employees? Because I think there's some people think that four-year colleges and universities obviously critically important and need those graduates. But are there opportunities for those 2-year associate degrees and community college type of stackable kinds of things? What, from an education standpoint, what are you looking for in future Roche employees?
Yeah, great question. It kind of spans the whole spectrum, and so of course we have tremendous opportunities for people that have business degrees or a PhD, in the sciences. But we also have absolutely opportunities for those who have 2-year degrees, trade development across any number of things. We have a large manufacturing site here for our diabetes test strips. We have a very large distribution solution here on site as well. And so, those are areas that we absolutely have a full range of opportunities.
Brad Moore, the president and CEO of Roche Diagnostics North America, such an important part of the Indiana economy, headquartered right here in Indianapolis. Brad, really been a treat catching up with you. Thanks for joining us. I look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you, Gary. Likewise.
All right. And thank you for joining us on this episode of the Business and Beyond podcast, presented by PNC. It is a weekly conversation with achievers in business, sports, entertainment, and beyond. And you can download all of our episodes and get Indiana business news 24/7. All you have to do is go to InsideIndianaBusiness.com. I'm Gary Dick. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.